Today's video is sponsored by Ritz Auto, located in Paintsville, Kentucky. If you're needing a used car and you want a down-to-earth and quick experience, Ritz Auto is the way to go. Hey guys, welcome back, and this little jewel is a 2015 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport SE. So what exactly is a Mitsubishi Outlander Sport SE? Well, apparently it's a crossover SUV with the styling cues of TikTok. Now, speaking of the styling notes, you can definitely tell that this vehicle is oriented towards more of a younger generation. The way the body contours and the glass kind of slowly slope up to the back of the car, angling down, to the large gaping grille up front, like, oh, look at me! And honestly, as silly as that is, I kind of like it. So now, let's talk about that engine. Now, the engine's not anything super special. It's a 2.0 four-cylinder. It makes approximately 148 horsepower. Now, that's not very much. However, this is a pretty light and nimble little SUV. It's kind of the Miata of the SUVs almost. It only weighs in at around 3,200 pounds, so there's really not a whole lot of weight to be slinging around. Now, given that it's lightweight and it's four-cylinder engine, it typically sees right around 25 city and about 30 to 32 highway. Now, given its 16-gallon fuel capacity, that could get you from Paintsville, Kentucky, all the way to the beach in South Carolina if you drive appropriately. Now, this vehicle has a pretty good standing, actually, by most of the larger review companies like Edmunds, Kelley Blue Book. It typically sees between a 4.3 to 4.7 stars out of 5 for its overall ratings. You know, for it to be such a small SUV, it actually has a surprisingly high amount of space back there, especially legroom. Now, width-wise, I don't see you fitting a very large car seat in the center, but as for actual legroom and headroom, you've got plenty. The interior is not what I would call luxurious, but it's actually really nice to be an economical style. And pretty much what I mean by that is the overall materials are plastic, but they look good to be plastic, if that makes any sense. All of the styling around the center console, the knobs, I just really enjoy the way they look. You can actually tell that they tried to make it modern and classy, relatable for its economical price. And honestly, I'm really digging this little four-wheel drive button, how it's right there in the center, chrome bezel around it, like, push me, it's four-wheel drive, you know you want to go off-road. But speaking of that, now granted, this is four-wheel drive, and the four-wheel drive system works pretty well, but it doesn't really have the greatest ground clearance, so I would not necessarily try to take this the same places that, say, Jeep Wranglers will be going. But it is completely functional enough that if you find yourself in a bad situation and, say, grandma's really steep driveway with ruts and potholes, it'll get you out. Or let's just say you're picking the kids up from school, or you're getting groceries and all of a sudden the big snow hits, it's going to get you home. Now, the same thing with the center console, how they went with a nice clean approach. They've done the same with all the gauges. You simply have your RPM or rev tac, and you have your mile per hour, which are both in analog style. But in the center, you do have a couple digital displays. Now, what this vehicle lacks in horsepower, and trust me, it does lack a little bit of horsepower, it actually makes up for in handling. Given how light this vehicle is, it feels very nimble to be an SUV. Something else I'm a fan of course, is given that this is the sport model, you can actually move the shifter over to the left where you have the plus and minus sign on the drive, which puts it in sport mode. And it also has reminiscence of some sports cars here, the flappy paddle gearbox. And of course, being able to just willingly hop into the semi-automatic state like that and control all the rev points, shift exactly when you want to, you can maximize what little bit of horsepower this car has. Now, there is just a little bit of road noise, but honestly, I expected that from a vehicle of this price range. It's not really that bad though. It sounds like it's more to do with the tires. So I'm sure that if you had maybe a nice highway set of tires, then you could probably eliminate a large majority of that road noise. But then again, you're also going to limit any traction that you would have in four-wheel drive. So take that with a grain of salt. Now, as for cargo space, you only get 21.7 cubic feet. And then under that, of course, you have your spare tire and your jack. That's really not a whole lot, but it does come with an optional cargo net. Now, if you want to improve your cargo space, you can fold the seats down with a simple push of a button, and you can increase that space to 49.5 cubic feet. Now, given the price range of this vehicle, I feel like they've done a pretty good job of striking a nice balance between a confident feeling suspension in sport mode to a comfortable ride when you're just cruising along to a capable feeling while you're off-road. So, of course, with that being, when things are struck right in the middle, you have something that doesn't quite drive like a Cadillac, it's not quite a Jeep Wrangler off-road, and it's definitely not a sports car. But of course, that's something you kind of come to terms with whenever you're looking for something that does everything decently. The visibility out of the back glass is not great, but honestly, I feel like it's sufficient. Now, a moment ago, I was talking about how the rear visibility is not the best. However, they do overcome that with one little simple feature. Now, when you place the car into reverse, you get a backup camera, which again is really not that bad for a vehicle of this price range. Now, this comes with a touchscreen head unit that I really like. The majority of the radio controls are done, of course, on the steering wheel via these buttons right here. So speaking of price ranges, this particular model in this year, being 2015, typically runs for anywhere between $12,000 to $15,000, depending on the mileage and the condition. Now, I would have to classify this vehicle at the very top of the economical daily. And the reason that is it's an affordable vehicle. It gets great fuel mileage. It seats 5. It does have a plastic interior, but it looks really good. That's why I'm putting it at kind of the top of the economical daily list. So, this vehicle is actually for sale down here at Ritz Auto in Paintsville. I believe they have this one listed for right around $11,000, which is really not a bad deal considering these typically run for around $12,000 to $15,000. Okay, so let's talk about the pros and cons. Its engine is pretty weak. 148 horsepower is not very much. Now, luckily, it does make up with that with a fairly light weight of just over 3,100 to 3,200 pounds. Rear glass visibility. Now again, if you're looking directly behind you or through the rear view mirror, you don't have a whole lot of view. But that does get made up for with the backup camera. Now, most people who review this vehicle automatically say the interior is a con. Now granted, like I said, it is a plastic interior, but out of most plastic interiors that I've seen, this one is very well done. Everything has been tastefully done. It's smoothed out, it's clean. They've put just enough bezel and chrome and little pieces in here, so that's not completely boring. So now the pros. It has a younger, edgier generation type look to it that I'm really digging. I like the exterior. It looks semi-sporty. The interior, I think, is pretty well done. The fuel mileage, you know, for a small 5-seater SUV that has decent cargo capabilities, it's really not that bad on fuel. 25 city, so around 30 to 32 on the highway. And last but not least, it does have 4-wheel drive. Now, granted, it doesn't have the best ground clearance, but of course, they had to kind of compensate on that, so that way it has a nice, comfortable, sporty feel on the road. But it does have 4-wheel drive, it does work, and it is going to be enough to get you home in the event of inclement weather. Okay, so quick recap. 2015 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport SE, 2.0 4-cylinder, 148 horsepower. It does have 4-wheel drive. It has backup camera when you put it in reverse. It has sport mode with the flappy paddle gearbox, so that way you can pretend you're an F1 driver. I am Lewis Hamilton! Just minus the dangers and the high-paying job and the big house. It seats 5. It has a medium-sized cargo capacity, but it does have the option to lay the seats down for more. It comes with a cargo net. So in my opinion, if you are looking for an affordable daily driver that you're not going to be worried about inclement weather, but you still don't want to go spend $60,000 on a Tahoe and it get like 12 miles per gallon, this is a really good option. It's small enough and light enough that it gets good fuel mileage, but it's just big enough that you have plenty of space to sit in the back. The interior is not super flashy or glamorous by any means, but it looks good. It's not bad. So if you guys think you might be interested in this, come on down to Ritz Auto and check it out. I would hurry though, because there's already been a few people looking at it. There was actually 2 people looking at it when I showed up to test drive it today. So I don't think it's gonna sit here very long. Oh, wait, I forgot. There's one last con. It does not have an overhead taco holder, but it does have a center tray cookie holder. So it kind of makes up for it. I'm trying to do a review here, and all these cars keep driving by, messing up my audio. I'm getting a call. My wife's calling me. It's usually pretty quiet on the inside, unlike out here where I'm trying to film right now.